into the match preview, and Spurs play Burnley at home on Friday night in the third round of the FA Cup. It's a really big game, isn't it, Brian? I know the FA Cup, some people argue it's lost a bit of its magic or its importance, but the fact that we all know it's the same old story with Tottenham, the trophy drought. We're desperate to have a good cup run, and having bowed out at the first time of asking against Fulham in the Carabao Cup, that was very disappointing and probably one of the only major down marks for Ange Postecoglou in his tenure at Tottenham so far. So for you, how important is it that we definitely get through to the fourth round and stick in this tournament while we have these injuries as well, and give this tournament our best shot?
So people of my age and older, I can certainly vouch for. This day is one of the most magical days in the football season. The third round of the FA Cup is such a historic time in English football, world football, because it's the most watched cup back in the day when only channels around the world got this FA Cup final to watch all year round. This is just massive to me. It's never lost any of its magic. And like you said, we need to end this hoodoo of trophies. And like I've been saying, what wonderful time to do it. We always say about Tottenham winning when the year ends in one. Well, how ironic would it be that we go and win the cup the year the great man that last won it sadly passed away? I want this FA Cup so badly, and I'm just hoping that we give it the respect that this club deserves to give it.
Yeah, completely agree, and I really hope we go into this with a really strong lineup, not leaving anything to chance. Considering as well, the next game we play is Man United away, which is 9 days away. I don't think we can use fitness or quick turnarounds as any excuse to not give it our all in. And also, I'm hoping anyway, Ange would have learned a bit from the reaction from the Carabao. I know he defended his decision, but did he truly know how much cup competitions meant to us until we went out? Maybe not. Maybe didn't really realise the gravity of how much we would care about going out these competitions at this stage. So maybe he would have learned from that as well, thinking, look, this club, they need a cup run. They need, to show. They need us to show that we're taking these cups really seriously, considering how long it's been since they last won a trophy. And do you think that would be in his thinking? Maybe in the Carabao game, he didn't quite understand how much of a big deal it was if we went out.
Ange Postecoglou, as we know, knows how important the FA Cup is to Tottenham. Do you remember in one of his first press conferences when he said his pub quiz question was, who was the first Aussie to win the FA Cup? And people say Craig Johnston for Liverpool, and he goes, no, Aussie are dealers. He knows how important this cup is, and he knows how important this cup is to Tottenham Hotspur. He won this cup at Celtic, or he won everything at Celtic. I think he knows full well that this cup is of huge importance. And obviously, like you said, after the Fulham game, it was his first bit of criticism thrown at him heavily. And I think he would have learned for that. And like you said, there's no excuse to say game time or whatever. It's sounding positive with the injury recovery. So there's no excuses for this one. And I fully expect him to take this cup absolutely dead on serious.
Yeah, 100%. And look, we do face Burnley at home tomorrow. Burnley, obviously, in the relegation zone at the moment in the Premier League, although it is a Premier League tie, so can't take any of those games for granted. Looking at the form going into this game for both Tottenham and Burnley. Burnley not in the best form, are they? Only won one of their last five. Spurs, on the other hand, the form suggests we're playing well at the moment. 4 wins and 1 loss in their last 5 games. You look at our home form as well. We've won 3 on the bounce at home. Burnley's away form, on the other hand, only 1 win in their last 5. But I don't know if it tells the full story for Burnley, because there's been a bit of an uptick in form in recent weeks. So that, if you got cast your mind back to the beginning of the season, they were conceding goals right, left, and centre, weren't they? They were really getting battered by a lot of teams. But if you look at their last few away games, 1-1 against Brighton, they beat Fulham 2-0 away from home. They were really unlucky on Saturday to lose 3-2 away at Villa as well, with a last-minute penalty. So, we got to be very careful not to take this game for granted, because Burnley have definitely been a lot better away from home in recent weeks.
Yeah, Simeon, you're right. What I will say with this is, like we did with Fulham and rested players, do Burnley have bigger fish to fry and think, right, the FA Cup really isn't a priority for us. Premier League survival is, and rest players. That we'll have to wait and see how they tackle the FA Cup. But like I said, what we were speaking earlier today, and Burnley's resilience and attitude in that Aston Villa game was incredible. They really were unlucky, even without that VAR decision. I think they gave a very, very good account for themselves. And do they carry on in that kind of mantra when they come to play us? We shall see. But I've got a feeling they might want to focus on Premier League. But it's still a worry, isn't it? It's all Premier League tie. It's the FA Cup under the lights on TV. I think we're the first game of this round, aren't we?
Yeah,
so we
Friday night. Yeah.
So all the recipe and ingredients are there for a cracking tie. And let's just hope whatever Burnley decide to do, we have the answers to their questions.
Yeah, absolutely. Vincent Kompany has said in his pre-match press conference that it's the perfect draw at the perfect time, because he feels that if you're going to get a big draw, I'd rather have it early than win all these games and get to the semi-final and go out and all of a sudden all that effort feels like it's for nothing. So he feels like it's a perfect draw for them. Oh, someone's saying Everton have a game tonight, so maybe not.
Oh, there you go.
Also, there you go. If you look at our form against Burnley in our head-to-head, our last 5 games against them, we do have good form against them. Beat them 5-2 in September. Obviously beat them 1-0 in our run to the Champions League in May 22 under Conte. We did lose 1-0 at Turf Moor, and James Tarkowski getting that. That was sparked a major run from Conte, if I remember. And then the 2 before that, we obviously won 1-0 at Turf Moor, and then we won 4-0. I remember Gareth Bale at the double in that game, if I remember, beating them 4-0. So obviously have a good record, especially at home against Burnley. Very different, but we haven't faced the Vincent Kompany Burnley at home, though. But in that head-to-head, in terms of our form against them, we do seem to get some good results in general.
We certainly do. I was at that 5-2 with Ben. What a day that was. First of all, I just have to say, the FA Cup with Everton kicking it off on a Thursday, sorry. This is what's happening with the FA Cup and TV now. It used to all be on a Saturday and a Sunday. That'll be the TV revenue for you, won't it? But yeah, going back to Burnley and our heads-to-head, it's very, very favourable on our side. And look at that, those 2 goals. So they scored 3 goals in those 5 games, whereas it's been raining goals for us. So it's looking good there, isn't it, Sim?
Yeah, definitely. I think in general, obviously we're going to go into this game massive favourites. I've just been looking at Burnley over the last few weeks, and they've definitely not just starting to play better, but they've tightened the ship a bit. Maybe starting to learn from their naivety. I think they're starting to be a bit more defensive and play on the counter attack a bit more, and it definitely lends to a bit more threat when you've got people like Foster, who's playing really well in recent weeks, isn't he? So I just think it's going to be a much more difficult game than we give it credit for, and it could be a bit of a banana skin if we're not careful, especially if we go into it resting a few players and thinking we can just go into it like not taking it as seriously as possible, not thinking of it as a big game. Then this definitely they have the capability of shocking us, and does it go to a replay or something? They could take it to a replay.
I was just about to ask you exactly the same question.
Yeah, I guess it does. I don't think they've taken away replays just yet.
I remember, replays stop after the 5th or 6th round, don't they?
Yeah,
I think straight to penalties. From what I remember.
So there's that capability as well of them taking it to a replay. So we've got to be super careful in this game, in my opinion, because Burnley have definitely turned their form around a bit in terms of their performance level. If we look at their lineup, this is how we think they're going to play. Look, they do play classic 4-4-2. Good old-fashioned wingers, 2 strikers, especially Foster. I see. I look at Foster, how he plays. He's like a modern day Callum Wilson. He's like a younger Callum Wilson. I look at him. That's how he's like. He's very quick. He's not the most technically gifted footballer, but he's got a very good touch and a very good finish and very good at running in behind. And that is what I see about Foster. And I really like the look of him. He's very effective. He's very much a player who we have to watch out for, especially, you know, if we're not going to have the pace of Van de Ven back in this game, for sure. He's one they're always going to be looking for. Amdouni has been pretty decent for them in recent weeks as well. Obviously, Sander Berge is going to be a big miss in central midfield, but Brownhill and Ramsey should be able to fill in pretty well. Their defence has left much to be desired, but as I've said, they've really tightened things up recently at the back and become a lot more resolute. And James Trafford in goal, he's a young keeper. Definitely sometimes he seems as though he's out of his depth, but he definitely is capable of some big saves on big occasions. Maybe I do feel like he's a bit weak from set pieces, but I feel like his reflexes, his shot stopping is really, really strong. So when you're looking at that team, Brian, who do you pick out as your danger men to watch out for?
Well, first of all, like you said, Lyle Foster, you just have to look at the goal he scored against Villa, which displayed everything you were saying about the comparisons with Callum Wilson. His power, we've got to be careful, especially if we are playing the high line and we don't have a Van de Ven playing. I do like Ramsey. I think Amdouni is a very talented little player. And like you said, the thing that concerns me and always happens with us is Trafford can go hot and cold. And we know what happens when a goalkeeper comes and plays against us. They'll have a game like Tim Krul. Burnley, like you said, they're very resolute and they keep their shape very well. We're just going to have to bide our time and hopefully be very clinical. But Lyle Foster will be the one for me.
Yeah, I think he's probably their biggest danger man. And if we can keep him quiet, I do think we probably go a long way to making sure Burnley are not as much of a threat. And but we are going to play the high line, aren't we? We are going to leave the space for him. So it's all about whether we can stop them getting the supply to him and make sure that he's not getting the chances. Because, you know, Aston Villa definitely struggled to contain him. He had that goal ruled out for offside, which was an inch offside, pretty much. And then he had a goal, and then he scored a goal, a really good goal as well at that. So I really think it's gonna be a struggle to contain him, especially if we're not as aggressive as we can be. But it's still definitely in our hands. We're going to be the big favourites. I know that if we play the football that we know we can play, I'm sure that Spurs will come away victorious here. It's even if we have a few changes and a few injuries. You know, sometimes we can play, as Kompany said. I remember we played them back in September, and he said just some of the football Tottenham played, we couldn't live with them at times. That was the reality, and that I think that just goes to show if we're on our game, they won't be able to live with us.
Yeah. Sorry, Sim, I was just getting a message from my dad, so I was a little bit distracted there. Just repeat the question again. Sorry, buddy.
No, I'm just saying, like, if Kompany said in September, if Spurs play their football, we can live with them. I think that just goes to show if we're on our game and if we play the football we know we can play, they won't be able to live with us. Yeah,
I mean, put it this way, when I went with Ben to the 5-2, they went 1-0 up. It was an error by Porro for their first goal, and for the first 15 minutes, they were much the better team, and then Tottenham grabbed a hold of it. And then obviously we went on to absolutely pummel them, and 5-2 could have been a lot worse. Burnley just have to obviously try and keep their shape and try maybe do the same again. And then if they do go ahead, be a little bit more disciplined. But if Spurs can get an early goal, or if Spurs can stop the pressure, the early pressure, then hopefully we will stop and have the answer to every single question that Kompany tries to throw at us.
Yeah, definitely. I really agree with that, and I think Burnley, at the end of the day, it is a cup tie, right? So as much as Burnley have been more resolute recently, and they've definitely tightened things up at the back, I do expect them to just come and try and win the game and be attacking, because at the end of the day, I don't think they want the extra game. I think they either want to go out or they want to stay in, and I think that's what the game's going to be like. I think probably for us as well. I think it probably affects us less to have the extra game than it does Burnley, but I think both teams are going to try and want a result on the day. I don't think anyone's going to want to go to replay. So I don't see Burnley sitting deep and just being like overly defensive. I do see them trying to have a bit of a go and see if they can nick something. So I do see a bit of an open game, and I think that'll suit Tottenham if it's an open game, and I think that'll let us stand us against stead. So having said all that, Brian, what is your prediction for the game?
I'm going to go 3-1 Tottenham. I just think we will have too much. And like you said, I think the crowd will be up for this. This is an important fixture. We've got to take this cup seriously. And I expect the 12th man to be at their best. They always are. And we will progress to the fourth round.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4-2. I think goals. I think we're going to have plenty of goals. I think we're going to be able to open them up. I also have a feeling that I'm assuming that our lineup's still going to be makeshift, and especially our back line. So I do see Burnley getting some joy, especially with Foster running in behind. But I think we should have basically we should have too much for them. I think we'll have too much firepower. And if it goes into a kind of game who can score more of their chances, I think it'll just be us. So I'm going to go 4-2 to Tottenham. Let me know in the comments section below, what is your score prediction going into this game?